will tell you that the most important thing in sports in terms of building an event is the grudge match, right? Usually we see in UFC cards when there is a grudge match, the numbers tend to do a little better. Now, when Conor McGregor's fighting, it doesn't seem to really matter, right? He pulls that the viewership anyway. And Conor in recent months and years, specifically as of late, has kind of turned face, right? He doesn't seem like he's the heel that he once was. I just don't think he wants that same bad blood anymore. So I'll ask you this. Poirier versus Conor McGregor 2 has been officially announced. Poirier signed, which means McGregor will sign for sure. And I want to know from you, initial thoughts on this fight being announced. Is Dustin Poirier the right guy to welcome back McGregor to that top five and hopefully contend for a championship?
In a word, yes. I think Dustin Poirier, obviously, 5-1 in his last 6 fights, and they're all against absolutely world-class champion-level bouts. From the likes of Gaethje, Khabib obviously took the L there, but we've seen him turn such a big corner, especially since that Conor lost. How many years ago? This is around the same time when Conor took on Max Holloway. So these are very different evolutions of a fighter, taking very different paths to where they are. But they've both been champion and hold that lightweight belt at some point. Who better to come back to the table with? And it started off with some charity type of IG type of thing. Hey, let's do a sparring match for the kids, and now it's turned into a full-on bout, which makes sense. The UFC needs to capitalize off this. I'm sure they'd prefer a gate. One of the pressing questions to me as well is, when is this fight going to happen? Is this going to happen with the scrapped Amanda Nunes card that obviously Conor wants to fight sooner than later, so he's probably going to be pushing for that opening. And these are types of, obviously now, Dana White's side, he's going to want to try to push toward trying to have live fans in there as soon as possible. And we all know what kind of a draw that Conor is. So kind of turn it around to you. What do you think in terms of like when this fight's going to take place?
Yeah, a lot of meat on that bone there. From what I've read today, it seems as though it's going to be targeted for January 23rd, and that is UFC 257. That's 2021. That means McGregor fought one time in 2020, and he's been pretty upset about it, right? He wants to be more active than he is, and he's just not being given the opportunity because he commands such a high fee. The UFC says, okay, well, if we play the Conor card too soon, and he starts to lose to the best guys in the division, well, then, the mystique of Conor McGregor starts to go, and then we can't make that same money off him. But at the same time, Conor can then take it in his hands and say, listen, I got McGregor Sports and Entertainment here, and I'll fight whoever the hell I want, whenever the hell I want, and I'll just do it in boxing. That way I don't have to adhere to the UFC's rules, right? But I don't think Conor's ever been that guy, right? I think he is the company guy, and he says, listen, I want to do this business with the UFC. The UFC's always been good to me, and I have no qualms with them. That being said, I think this fight happens in January. The UFC already told him it's not going to happen any sooner, despite the fact that, yeah, you're right, Nunes is now off her card, which was going to be the pay-per-view in December. I don't know if, and I'm sure anybody fights Conor, they're going to accept whatever terms Conor wants in terms of time and place because it means money for them, right? It's more money in their pocket. Mm-hmm. I see this fight happening in early January and just saying, listen, the UFC's kind of been put in a position here where they're saying Conor seems very interested. It's no longer up to us. We can't keep him out any longer because even if we could get all this more money for a gate if he's there, we can't not have Conor McGregor fighting just because we don't have the gate, because that doesn't seem like it's going to be feasible in the foreseeable future. And how long can you keep your golden goose out, right?
Right, 100%. Now, obviously, moving toward the fight, what do you expect to happen? Obviously, the next pressing question. In my opinion, obviously, I think Poirier is a world-class fighter, but I just think matchup-wise, this is just a kryptonite type of matchup here for Dustin Poirier. He's one of the more well-rounded fighters in the entire UFC, the roster top to bottom, any division. He can do everything. But the thing is, Conor McGregor is one of the best at takedown defense. I don't care about what Khabib did. He was stuffing some takedowns, getting back up to his feet the second his butt touched the ground, better than someone like a Justin Gaethje did even. So Conor McGregor's proven that if you have to be elite to keep him on the ground, and then obviously with his striking, I think there's levels to it. And I just don't think that that Poirier is going to be able to outbox or kickbox someone like a Conor McGregor based on the dynamic striking repertoire that Conor possesses, the timing, the speed, the power. He has a lethal combination if you keep it standing with him. And I think he's the hardest guy to stand with in the lightweight division, honestly. I don't know how Poirier is going to pull this one off, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you there, to be honest. There are so few in modern UFC, like today, especially that super stacked lightweight division, that I would say this guy I can say with conviction will beat Dustin Poirier, because Dustin Poirier has made fans of us all, right? Like, we all love Dustin Poirier now
Yeah,
because of what he stands
100%.
for, his fighting style, the fact that this dude's in wars every time he steps in the cage. He's not asking for easier opponents, right? He's saying, I am the best guy in the world, and I'm going to prove it by beating the best guy in the world day in, day out. But going back to what you said, you're exactly right. The fact of the matter is, this is just a bad matchup for him. I don't think he's as good as he's good enough as a wrestler to stop McGregor's striking, right? In other words, I don't think that Poirier dictates where the fight takes place. I think Conor does, and I think Conor is such a good striker that he really can make Poirier look bad in there. And you know, their first fight was 1,000 years ago, and it was against the worst version of Dustin Poirier, and that was the bald Dustin Poirier. That was the worst version of him. But he lost via KO in the first round, and it was the way that McGregor got to him under his skin, right? He was pissing him off the whole time, and he said, listen, I make you super aggressive,
Yep.
and then you play into my web. And I just don't see it being any different this time. Even if McGregor chooses to go the friendly routes and saying, listen, I'm going to donate all this money to your charity as well once we're done. The fact of the matter is, stylistically, unless they find themselves in a jiu-jitsu match, I don't see Dustin Poirier being able to take the win off here. So my initial reactions are Conor McGregor has just made himself, if it's not for an interim strap, the number one contender once again.
And that's the thing when you come and look at Michael Chandler just signing, Justin Gaethje just went and fought for the belt against the toughest guy who no one was going to beat in Khabib. You got Tony Ferguson, obviously, who's waiting in the lurches, who really seems to have turned a corner mentally in terms of what he wants for himself and the legacy he's going to leave in his community after that last loss against Justin Gaethje. He said, you know, I'm not riding a 12-fight winning streak anymore. Though that's not the priority right now. He's like, I want to get in there and I want to fight for straps. Like, this does nothing else really matters other than helping my community and starting the Snap Jutsu Academy and everything like this. So I love the resurgence of his mentality. I think he's breathed new life into his own thought process toward combat sports in general. And then just in totality, you look at the lightweight division, the top 5-6 guys. What are we really going to do here? Right? We're supposed to see Islam Makhachev supposed to go and fight. He was supposed to be a guy who's supposed to come and follow in the footsteps eventually of Khabib potentially. He had to pull out of his fight. They have something going around in their whole camp. You know, we know that Khabib had the mumps 3 weeks before his fight. So did something happen there where that's just circulating in the gym with these guys? We all know they roll pretty close with each other and everything like that, literally and figuratively. So it's just a huge mess of what's going on at the top of this lightweight division. And Conor, in the most Conor way, just been, okay, well, elevator to the top floor. I guess I'm the one to beat now.
Yeah, you know, the cream will rise, and that's where Conor is. And quite frankly, I think, like I said, he becomes number one contender again after that fight, even if it's January 23rd or later. I'll ask you this, and we'll wrap on this. Do you think that, because there was some speculation that, you know, Dustin was asking a little bit too much, and that, you know, there's Justin Gaethje, who's always game, and that's always promising to be a good fight, that he's kind of lurking in the waters? Do you think that he's going to be and you don't really have an alternate or a backup for a non-pay-per-view, for a non-title fight.
Title, yeah.
And Dana has seemingly said, I don't think Khabib's vacating the belt, so I'm not going to have him. Right. I'm not going to make this for an interim or a vacant strap.
At least till April, at least.
Right. So for now, do you put Justin Gaethje as a backup on this card to determine a number one contender, even if it's not for a belt?
Well, we know Gaethje wants to turn it around. We know Tony Ferguson wants to turn it around. And we know Chandler says he's ready to fight, but then he just turned down the Rafael Dos Anjos on 5 days' notice. Paul Felder's the one who stepped in. Going to be a decent bout. I like that matchup.
Salute to Paul Felder coming out of retirement.
Man, Paul Felder, the Irish Dragon, man. This guy loves this short notice kind of thing. But to answer your question, Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler, Tony Ferguson. I mean, there's lots of guys you could have waiting in the lurches that should be, honestly, like Chael P. Sonnen would say, hey, man, you got to be ready. If you want to be that guy, anything can happen. Go look at Nunez. Go look at what happened with Islam. Like, if you're ready to step in, you're going to have an opportunity to prove something to yourself and the fans and obviously, most importantly, Dana White and the matchmakers. Like, you need to be ready to hop in there on short notice. So you should be jumping at that opportunity. But historically, Justin Gaethje said he's not somebody who likes to take short notice fights or not know if he's going to fight. He likes to get game plans and know who he's going to fight, when he's going to fight, how he wants to fight them, based on the game plan that Trevor Whitman and him like to put together. Then you go and look at someone like Tony Ferguson, who's just a badass. I don't think he cares. I just don't think. I think he might want to get in there. He doesn't care who he ends up having to fight out of those two either. It kind of is a matchup that benefits him either way, where Tony Ferguson just welcomes chaos. So welcoming chaos against someone like Conor versus and being durable versus welcoming someone who wants to bring a little bit of everything, but I don't know if he's gotta have a better wrestling pedigree or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu pedigree than Tony Ferguson. And then the durability is going to be interesting. So Tony Ferguson should be waiting in the lurches. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, not to mention, I think Tony is the worst matchup for anyone on short notice, right? Because Tony is probably already in better shape than they are, right? So it doesn't even matter they didn't have a training camp. And to prepare for him is, I think, harder than trying to prepare for a traditional striker or wrestler, because you don't know what Tony's going to offer when he's in the cage, right? I think you're the one who needs to formulate a game plan against Tony Ferguson. And if Tony Ferguson just wants to go John Wick across the entire division one night, who's to say he can't, right?
100%. I agree with you. That's a really good point that you make there. He is a really tough guy, especially on short notice. If he's the one that's coming in and stepping in out of nowhere, that is just like, whoa, I was training for X and now I'm training for like Y or Omega. You can call it whatever you want. This guy's going to come
another
in
alphabet altogether.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a problem altogether. And Michael Chandler's a little bit of a wild card now, right? We still haven't seen this guy go and do anything quite yet. Mm-hmm. What's he capable of doing? What does he want to do? How's he going to fare against the elite of the cream of the crop of some of the deepest top 5, top 6 in all of the UFC? Like, it's tough. I don't know where he fits in because we haven't seen him in the UFC. Obviously, you can take Bellator and extrapolate that and try to project success, but we've yet to see something. And he just said he likes to stay ready, and he was a fill-in for that Khabib versus Gaethje fight. He was willing to fill in for that when he knew ahead of time. But 5 days notice for him, in his mind, he wasn't comfortable stepping in against RDA on that type of notice. Although I would have loved to see that bout, because why not make your name off of a guy like that? But I guess in his mind, there's more risk than there is reward. If he goes and steps in and fights against Tony Ferguson and loses, it's Tony Ferguson and your stock still goes up. Whereas if it's RDA and you take an L, you might have a problem right there.
Yeah, for sure. So with all that we've discussed in this, I think, jam-packed mini clip of That's Fighting, I want to put now the question to you, our wonderful viewers. Guys, what do you think of this whole scenario, right? Lightweight is still kind of a mess because of Khabib's retirement. We're still trying to decide what goes next. But it seems like the way to another belt, it goes through Conor McGregor, right? I think that fight on January 23rd, if that is indeed when it takes place, is going to be for, at the very least, a number 1 contender spot. And I think that man will be Conor McGregor after that night. I think Mike agrees with me there. What do you guys think? Let us know what you think in the comments below. We love hearing from you. We love chatting with you. We're always reading your comments. And some of you have some really interesting takes. So be sure to keep sharing it with us. We love to hear it. Thanks, guys.